Okay, I'm officially ready to start tackling wiring on this Fummins. And I have a master plan, so to speak. Um, the final piece of this plan will be to just take that whole cluster out of there and replace it with a normal speedometer, and then I want to move that tranny controller and just put it right up where the tachometer is, because I actually find myself using that frequently, and it shows me what my gear selector's in, park, reverse. So I think I can just get rid of the physical one. And then this CTS2 is just gotta go. It doesn't work well with the 2001 Cummins. The fuel pressure sensor just died on it. The only thing I'm really using it for at this point is the engine coolant temperature and the EGT, so that'll be a pretty easy replace. So I got me one of these Banks iDash things, and I got to decide where I'm going to mount it. I could mount it up here. I could maybe mount it right there on the column somehow. Maybe I could put it over here. I want to leave that mount for a backup screen at some point and just replace the CTS2 with a mounting screen, but I have a bunch of other plans as well. So I want to clean up all the wiring under the hood. I've got quite the little mess just from figuring out what wires go where. And so sort of my master plan is to get that Banks iDash installed first. And then I'm going to work on eliminating the Ford PCM, because the only thing I'm using the Ford PCM for is an oil pressure sensor, which I'll get through my Banks iDash. And then I'm using it for the RPM for the tachometer and the dash, but that's going away. So then that swap helper can go away, because that's the only thing it does. And I can get my tach signal directly from the Cummins for my tranny controller. And then I still have the 42-pin connector from the Power Stroke back there, but there's literally 2 wires hooked up to it. And one of them goes to that oil pressure sensor, so that can go away. And then that green wire goes to the alternator, and I have deduced from schematics that it's just key-on power, so I can replace that with key-on power from somewhere else. And then I'm going to start taking every one of those wires that I don't need and just removing them, remove that swap helper. And then I've got a 2002, so it doesn't have a fuse box in the engine compartment, so I think I'm going to go source a engine compartment fuse box out of another truck, put that in here, and then move all this wiring into that. And then one wire at a time, I'm going to clean this up so it just is dependable and doesn't have loose wires everywhere. But my goal today is just to get my pressure sensor on my intake horn and my temperature sensor on my intake horn for my iDash. So one step at a time, this wiring will get done. And here's challenge number 1. My pressure sensor is 1/8 MPT, and this intake has like 6 1/8 NPT threaded inserts. But Banks's temperature sender kit is 3/8 NPT. So I either gotta get an adapter or I gotta drill and tap this sucker. Decision time. Alright, got her tapped, drilled and tapped. Actually went pretty smoothly, so I'm gonna have a pretty good angle, I think, for my temperature sensor. I don't know if you can see it in there or not. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There it is. So it sticks in just like it's supposed to, but not too far. Yeah. Alright, I got her back on the truck. I got my temperature sensor, my pressure sensor ready to hook up. Irony being, not one wire is cleaner than when I started. This is just a step in that direction. Look at that mess. We'll get there. My next step is replacing my busted fuel pressure sensor from the CTS2 with the ones for the iDash. I gotta say, the iDash one from Banks is like stainless steel, substantially bigger, just looks like a better piece of kit maybe. But my current theory is that when it got really cold and the diesel fuel got thick, my fast fuel pump just put more than 50 psi to this sucker and popped it. So I'm replacing it with a 100 psi sensor, and we'll see if it lasts longer. Well, got her in there, got the fuel line back in, and it turns out the Banks sender uses the same plug as the CTS2 one, so I plugged it in, and I'm gonna see if I can get a signal on the CTS2 and confirm my theory that the sensor just popped. Here we go. Here's one thing I am not gonna miss about this piece of shit CTS2, excuse my French, but every time you change a custom gauge setting, it has to reboot and then reconfigure itself, and then it re-looks at your computer and says, oh, this isn't the same setting it was last time we booted, and then it reboots, and then it sits here and loads forever. And like, really, why do I have to reboot the device to change one of my custom sensors? Like, if you rename it, you gotta reboot. And then if you put a different sensor in, you have to change it from 50 to 100 psi sensor. You gotta reboot, and then you gotta go all back through the initial setup. Just a pain. All right, my next step is I got to figure out where I want to mount these Banks modules, and I think I want to put it like right here, or maybe over here. Since I don't have a fuel bowl in this truck, I have plenty of room right here, but I don't really want to attach it to this braking piece of plastic. So I got this piece of aluminum. I think I'm gonna make a new one. I'm gonna try to bend that to match the curve of the truck, and then I'll center it, and then I'll put some brackets on it so I can bolt it here and over there. I don't think then I'll have a nice surface to bolt all my wires to behind it. I can polish this up a little bit, and then I'll have something I can screw into for the mounts on those modules, and I think it'll look pretty nice when it's all said and done. If only the dipstick wasn't there though, it would give me a little bit more leeway. So I got to decide whether I want to mount them here or here. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go over here instead of right here. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, got the piece of aluminum pretty much bent to place. That's approximately where it will sit to replace those chintzy plastic pieces, and I got my little brackets built. I just have to get them welded on and then get some bolts to hold it in place. And I think I'll have a nice wire guard and something I can bolt stuff to on the front. Someday I can take a EGT or exhaust back pressure sensor kit, and I can maybe bolt it over there to get it out of the heat. I don't know. But one step closer. For the first time since I started this project, there are some wires that are in a better place than when I started. That aluminum bar has three little things, and I have all the wires through them. Holds them up. How cool is that? Now I can start bolting stuff on the front of it. All right, got my Banks module mounted. My sensors are hooked up. I got the manifold air temperature and pressure. I replaced the Ford oil pressure sensor with the Banks one, and then I got the Banks fuel pressure sensor. I got the wiring just coiled up for now, and I'm officially no longer using a single wire off of my Ford 42 pin connector, and I in fact unplugged my Ford PCM, and everything is working. So my follow-up to this is going to be going through each one of these wires. I'm going to strip this down. I started a little bit here, but I'm going to remove every wire that's connected to that PCM connector, and that 42 pin connector is just going away, and the IDM connector is going away. And then I'm going to strip those wires down and get rid of all the wires that went to all the sensors that are no longer used. And that's going to be a long project. And then I got to figure out a preferred wire path for all these wires and get them all zip tied up, and then figure out where to mount this fuse box. I'm not really sure. Once I get this 42 pin connector out of here and this EGT thing from the old CS2 out of the way, maybe there'll be room down there to mount it. Maybe I'll get creative and Mount it right up here on top of the battery or something. I don't know. That's a different project for a different day. And the iDash is installed and working. I got rid of the CTS2. I'll probably do a different video to do a review of this after I get used to using it, but if I zoom in you can see that it's got my oil pressure and it's got my lift pump pressure, and I set up an alarm so if my lift pump drops below 5 psi I'll know and I can just shut everything down. The one thing I will say about this iDash versus that CTS2 is it is just amazingly user-friendly. You can go in and you can configure the modules. You don't have to reboot it no matter what you do. It's a pleasure to configure. The menu system is great. But I'm going to remount it. This is just a temporary location. It came with a sticky cup for this mount I ordered. I think I've decided I'm going to put it here, so I ordered an autometer mount for it. But for now, it's installed and working. My Ford PCM's unplugged. My CTS2 is gone. I'm making progress.